Abstaining.
All in favor, can you raise your hand so I can get this vote? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed, 0. Abstaining, 1. If you could pass those back to Dr. Cochran, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yes. I'm not sure that's true. I'm going to do that right after the delegates and individuals. Moving on to delegates and individuals, I have 3 people that wish to speak. Emily Hannay from Plastow. You could come up. Could you come up to the mic, please?
There's one here.
There's one on both sides.
Just want to remind people that we're limiting to 3 minutes. If you could go ahead, please.
Okay. So before I read my comments that I prepared, I'd just like to say that last week was my first school board meeting, and I was shocked when it was canceled without warning a half an hour after it was supposed to start. I'll say, frankly, to me, it did look a little bit like a power play, and if that wasn't your intent, you need to be mindful on how you're coming across to others. It was unfair to the people that took the time to attend and wanted to speak. I am here today speaking to you as a concerned mother whose questions cannot seem to get any answers. I am sure that you all take your role very seriously and feel the great weight of the trust that the community puts on you. We entrust you to make educational decisions for the most important and precious people in our lives, our children. I am sure when faced with a challenge, a question, a policy decision, that you look at it from all sides and do your due diligence in researching all that you can. So then you, like me, must know that our children are not at high risk for a high-risk group for COVID. You know that children are not known spreaders of COVID. You know that even Dr. Fauci admitted in some leaked emails that, quote, masks are really for infected people to prevent them from spreading infection to people who are not infected, rather than protecting uninfected people from acquiring infection. He goes on, the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out the virus, which is small enough to pass through material, end quote. You know that there have been studies on how dirty and unsanitary the masks are, so then why are we forcing children who are not at high risk to wear a mask that probably doesn't work around adults who have had an opportunity to be vaccinated if they wanted? I'm left with this question, and like many other parents, it leads me to wonder, is it political? Is it a tale of absolute power corrupts absolutely? Is there some unknown pressure from somewhere? What is it? Why are we not following the science as it evolves and as we know more? I'm sure we could have a robust debate on all the nuances, but at the end of the day, what is wrong with letting parents make the choice to mask their children? Teachers want to wear a mask? Fine. Parents want to send their children with a mask? Fine. Why are you forcing it? Why are you treating it as law and circumventing our children's basic human rights? Obviously, the school year is over, and you had a chance to end the mask mandate and essentially kick the can down the road, but I sincerely hope that come September, the masks are gone, if not optional at least. It is clear now that the risk to my child to have to be forced to wear a mask is not worth the reward of making other people in the school feel safer. I have references to all the claims I've made in my statement with me, and I would be happy to share them with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Serpine from Plastow.
All right, I'm going to lean down a little. I myself as well, concerned parent, have 3 small children in the schools. Very similar to what Emily was saying, is very, very unhappy of the previous school year. I personally look at it too, that we have treated our children as political pawns way too long. And if you really step back and you look at all the data and you look at the opportunities that all of the teachers and everyone in the school from the adults have had to get vaccinated. I mean, goodness, there were 2 days taken off this school year for them to get vaccinated. Go get vaccinated, great. But then we're still having our kids wear masks. I thank you for taking off the mask mandate when they are outside, right? That's step 1. Step 2 is, let's step back. Let's look at what are we really trying to do here to take little children who have near 0 issues with this, to put them in masks, when we know the people that would have some type of issue with this are the ones that are already vaccinated there. And I know I probably speak for a lot of people here, and you're probably going to hear it. I think you got to continue to hear it. We are concerned parents. My kids come home every day from school with headaches from having the mask on. And even worse, the fear that has struck into them. I can't walk into a store now and say, honey, take off your mask. Fear that they are going to get reprimanded for it. What are we doing to these little kids? Let these little kids be little kids. You know, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders. I got a son going into kindergarten now, and he's going to be scared beyond belief. Oh, I got to keep my mask on. I got this. When there was no issue with them there. I mean, they're kids, right? Let's think about that. All the data shows that. And if we're always going to say, well, the CDC says this, or the state of New Hampshire says that. Well, if you look at the state of New Hampshire, the state of New Hampshire also has a 3-foot distancing. And if they're sitting within 3 feet, don't need masks. But I do recall, and that was updated in March, but I do recall that our kids still had masks on all the time when they're sitting down in school. I ask that we be smart about it. We listen to us parents. We think about what are we doing to the kids, right? We're all here for kids, for their education, for their well-being, for their well-rounded perspective to grow up and be good, responsible adults. So that's my ask, is we strongly get rid of that too from a mask perspective. Let the kids be kids, and I thank you for the time.
Thank you. Rose Love, Daniel. Sure.
Hi, my name is Rose Love. I live in Danville. We just moved here again last October from Colebrook, New Hampshire, to come live with my mom and to change our life. I originally moved here 2.5 years ago because I fled from a domestic abusive relationship, completely started over. So I'm a single mom of twins. It's pretty hard, and I know that there are other parents that are single moms or single dads as well that have to do whatever they have to do to take care of their kids, and that's their choice and their right. One of my biggest values is to not put masks on me and my children. I personally have not found it to be logical, and it doesn't work. Another one is that we're not vaccinated, and we're not going to get vaccinated. That's not in my value, and that's something that I'm not going to push on other people. All I'm asking for is please respect other people and their choices and their freedoms and their rights. And listen to us. Every chance you can, listen to somebody about what's going on with them. Unfortunately, I don't trust you guys. I don't trust you. Actually, I trust Sean. Sean has listened to me. But I don't know you all. And from what I know so far, I don't trust. So now I'm going to another district and putting my kids in another school with people that I have spoken to that have listened to me about what our personal values are. And they are saying, yes, we will respect them. That's awesome. That's what we're supposed to be doing in this world, is coming together, not dividing, masked and unmasked, vaccinated and unvaccinated. We're supposed to come together and find ways to make this work. Excuse me for getting emotional. But I'm not going to put my kids in this school system. I barely know you guys, and from what I do know, I just feel like you guys are just taking care of yourselves, your own personal belief, putting that on other people. It's not okay. How do you feel when someone tells you to do something and you just don't want to do it because it's against your values, your opinion, your thoughts, your feelings? It's against you. You retaliate or you get away from them. And it's unfortunate. I live in this community and I don't feel safe enough to have my kids go here because I don't feel respected and I don't trust you all. I would love to be able to trust you all. I would love to find a way to make that happen. But I can't keep doing all the work. You guys gotta come to us too, as parents. Stop canceling meetings. Stop rescheduling them. Listen to us. We take our time to come here. I come here every time with my kids. Single mom with twins. I come every time that we've lived here. Because I wanna know what's going on. I care. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Moving on to the school reopening update. Board members, this was in your packet at the last meeting. Are there any questions about this? There is an update here in your packets for June 22nd. Barbara?
So I just want to reiterate what the current policy is. So right now we have no masks inside or out as long as the number of active cases in Rockingham County is below 50, correct?
Mr. Patterson, can you answer that, please?
That is correct. Based upon the motion made on June 3rd, there was active cases of COVID is in the green for Rockingham County, as measured by a number of active cases reported by New Hampshire DHHS. That's unfortunately, New Hampshire DHHS is not reporting it in green, yellow, and red. So we looked at that. We looked at how the cases have been going all year. We made the determination. Green is 0 to 50 active cases, and that's no mask, no social distancing. Excuse me. Yellow is 51 to 100 active cases, and that's masks or 3-foot distancing. And the red is over 100 active cases in Rockingham County, and that's masks or 6-foot distancing.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
You're welcome.
And we will be revisiting this as we get closer to the new school year, correct?
Correct. There's actually further information in your packet about next school year.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Moving on, in your packet, you've got a facilities update. There's a newer one from 6/24 that you should have, that you just received today. Are there any questions on this?
We're on the facilities update?
We're on the facilities update.
The bids were open. Do we know, did we make a decision on those?
The bids for the HVAC?
Yeah.
I think we might as well move into designation of Maria, do you want to come down? Because that kind of ties into designation of unencumbered funds, correct? So the bids were opened for the HVAC system?
Yes, so we opened the RFP for the HVAC equipment. We only have one bid for it. We are meeting with the company that bid for it on Monday to go through the equipment that they selected to replace the units with, and to make sure that is what we are looking for and that's what is the best option for the district, as well as we have to review with them on the requirements for the ESSER funds, because as you know, that is a federal funding, and the requirements are extremely strict. So we are meeting with them to make sure that they are in compliance for federal funding.
Thank you, Maria.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Because that ties into the next topic, which is the designation of unencumbered funds. In your packet, you have an executive summary dated June 17th that looks to encumber funds. So we'll be looking for an action item to encumber funds for these projects.
So what are you looking for the motion though, for the 271K?
The 271,500 to encumber those funds. If you look below that, you'll see we still have encumbered funds back from FY 2021 that will stay as encumbered. And we will be looking to use grant funding for the HVAC equipment replacement. So we're only looking to encumber 271,500.
So I'll make a motion to encumber $271,500.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that motion?
Can we add to, and also to re-encumber the 225?
Oh, sorry, and yes, Sean, could you add to re-encumber the 225,000?
And I'll amend my motion to include and to encumber $225,000 for the boilers that were encumbered in fiscal year 2021.
Thank you.
I'll amend my second.
So the motion is amended and the second is amended. All in favor of the motion as amended? I think we're up to 8 now. 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we are now moving on to the SAU 106 organizational chart. Board members, you have a new organizational chart in your packet that you were handed today. Make sure you're looking at the one that says 624 on the bottom. So we're looking to take action on this organizational structure for SAU 106, which will come.
Motion to approve the organizational chart as presented on 624 by the superintendent.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Kristen seconds. Discussion?
Discussion?
Brian?
Just want to, because it's, I see the lines, just want to make sure I clearly understand this. So it's the superintendent, and the assistant superintendent is over everybody else, because he, as an assistant superintendent.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I don't think that's correct.
The superintendent and the assistant superintendent, yes.
The superintendent has direct reports of the business administrator, the HR director, athletic director, and director of music PAC. If you look off to the left, the assistant superintendent has 2 direct reports, special ed director and executive director of curriculum instruction assessment.
Okay.
Well,
So, Brian Boyle, so he's above, the assistant superintendent is above the other lines are showing direct reports.
okay.
But, okay.
Barbara? Or Kelly?
No, never mind, I got it. I was just wondering, I'm assuming this has all been discussed with the people who are impacted and everything's hunky-dory? Okay.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor? 8-0. The next item on the agenda is the...
Sorry, I missed who seconded, first and seconded.
Oh,
I did.
Kristen did, yeah, Kristen seconded.
Sean was first, and then, okay. Thank you.
The next item is suspension authorization.
Business curriculum?
Oh, why is it, sorry, I crossed it out already. Okay, the next item is the second read on the business curriculum. So we're looking for a motion to approve the business curriculum. This is the second read. Kristen makes a motion. Barbara makes a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor? 8-0. Now moving on to suspension authorization. This is an annual board authorization for the superintendent or his designee to suspend students beyond 10 days as outlined in RSA 193:13. So I'd suggest that the motion states to authorize the superintendent and his designee to continue the suspension of a student for a period in excess of 10 school days as provided for in RSA 193:13B. Kristen makes that motion. Barbara, you don't, I have that written out, so don't worry about that motion. Is there a second on that motion? Steve makes a second. Discussion? Kelly?
Ask a question for my own knowledge. How often does this, in the past year or so, how often has this happened?
Well, the past year will be difficult.
All right, average year, an average year.
I don't know if Dr. Cochran can answer that for this district. Does anybody?
I think it all depends on
Who's running the ship?
Maybe we should.
We haven't had a chance to experience that yet with our
Hold
current
back-
administration,
hold back a lot
so.
here.
That's fair.
But it has happened.
It's a good question, and it does happen, sure, but I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
That's
understandable.
Barbara?
So if we don't pass this motion, it still comes to the school board if it's going to be 10 days or more?
Yeah, this was my question I was gonna have, is that we have policies that we've adopted that are addressing this kind of issue, so I don't know what this motion really is entailing though.
I don't have those policies with me.
Well, we remember that we updated them for obvious reasons.
We did update those policies, but this is, I would suggest that we could table this because there's not going to be anybody suspended in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not be a first.
All right, we can table this. Amy, can you, or Steve, who's our policy? Steve, Steve, can you make sure you take a look at the policy that relates to this and make sure it's included in the board packet for July when we come back to this? All right, so we'll table that. No, we'll just table it. We won't vote on the motion. Moving on to the federal funding authorization. Each year, the board has to authorize the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and business administrator to apply for and receive on behalf of the district, federal, and state grants. So I would suggest the motion to authorize the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and business administrator to apply for and receive on behalf of the district, federal, and state grants and funding, and file such authorization with the New Hampshire Department of Education.
I'll make that motion.
Kristen makes that motion.
Second.
Sean seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? 8-0. The next item on the agenda is the summer hiring process. The board needs to make a determination on the summer hiring process. Typically, when the board is not meeting on an as regular basis from June 15th to September 1, any 3 members of the board shall be empowered to act on personnel matters as presented before them during the summer months, and to bring recommendations forward to the board for approval at a subsequent board meeting. And that valid contracts would be issued upon the recommendation of any 3 board members, and that the chair be authorized to sign them, or in his or her absence, his or her designee can sign. The board could opt out of this by majority vote to authorize any 1 board member to make recommendations in lieu of the 3 board members for hiring professional staff during the summer months when the board is not in session. This motion is to authorize, we can either authorize 1 person to sign for the board, or we can authorize only 3, as opposed to a majority of 5. Typically, we need 5. In the summer, we move down to 3. Barbara?
Could we use PandaDoc like we do for check registers, and just as long as we get 5 signatures in a timely manner?
We can use PandaDoc as long as we have somebody that's able to set it up and get it running. Maria or Dana, where do we stand on PandaDoc moving into 106? Are we going to have that ability? We will have that ability. So I think we could stay with, we could still keep it in PandaDoc. That was not something that we had before last year. Kelly?
I mean, I know this is a policy that will exist past this year, but aren't we meeting routinely throughout this semester, summer?
Well, the problem is we only meet once a month, and right now we're still hiring staff for the fall, and we don't want to leave it for a month because it's critical to get people on board now as we approach the school year. So
Potentially hire tomorrow, and we'd have to wait till.
yeah, we have to wait, and then people may take another position. So do we want to make a motion that we,
I'd make a motion that we use Panda Doc, so that's.
I'm fine with that. So,
Panda Doc with 5?
With 5 signatures.
with 5, so, yeah, basically we're talking about whether or not we still want to maintain 5 signatures to authorize hiring
Without need for meetings.
without the need for a meeting. In the past, in the summer, it's been difficult to get 5 board members to come in to sign.
Somebody make a motion.
If I may have a comment.
Sorry.
I will think it will be easier for us, and I don't know if Mr. Dr. Cochran agrees with me, to have 3 signatures instead of 5. It's just because of the volume of hirings that we do throughout the summer. I think it will be helpful if you can adjust it to 3 instead of 5, just based on the volume of hirings.
Would you still prefer Panda Doc?
Yeah, we can do it panel.
Yeah.
But I think it's helpful to have 3 instead of 5 due to the volume, because sometimes getting the 5 signatures is complicated and all.
How about this as a proposal? What we do is we have it lower the, send it out to the entire board in Panda Docs. 3 signatures are what are required of the board to move it forward. Anybody on the board objects, then it goes to a full vote.
No, you can't do that. You can't.
We have to call a meeting to come in and.
Then we have to call a meeting.
To find out why, and we can't discuss it publicly.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just,
Wait.
Somebody's adamant about objecting to somebody. That should be heard.
Dr. Cochran?
Just an FYI, the most common practice that I'm aware of in the state is that during the summers, superintendent is typically given the ability to hire as the last hiring authority. In the normal hiring process for certified people, the superintendent must nominate and the board must elect. And in most cases, therefore, it's a superintendent's responsibility to identify the best candidate and move them forward. Current practice in Derry.
That is.
And each of my former school districts.
I know, but it still requires the board to,
No.
there's no,
If you make a motion to authorize the superintendent to go ahead and hire, that covers it.
personally, because the policy is stating 3 signatures in the summer, I'm not against changing the policy moving forward, but.
Yeah. No, that's why I stated it is for informational purposes.
Yeah. So I personally feel that we should be voting on 3 signatures in the summer.
Or, the policy also states that we could vote on 1 person, right? Am I reading that
We
correctly?
could, yes.
Either.
it should be easier for Maria to move forward.
The other thing that, if I may say, is in Panda Docs, we can set it up for 5 signatures if you want, but if you leave it requiring just 1, that means that we can move forward as soon as we receive 1. All of you can look at it and sign if you want it, but we can move forward with 1 signature, but all of you will have access to the document, you all can look at it, and if you want to sign it, you can sign it, but as long as we have 1 or 3, whatever you guys decide, it will just make the process easier for us internally. That's all what it is.
Right.
I guess I'd like to see you just stay at 3 and let the school district try to get back to normal as soon as possible. We've always had 3. It's worked.
Okay, so you're making a motion that for the summer, we require 3 board signatures
Yep.
through Panda Doc. So is there a second on that motion? Barbara seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? 8-0. Motion passes.
Dr. Farron,
Yes.
earlier in the meeting, this should have been in your packet, an executive summary dated June 22nd, 2021, determining return for safe school in-person instruction and continuity of services. It's required to be passed in order to receive ESSER funding. I think this is the final step in the process.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Is that in the old packet or the new packet?
Dated June 21st.
It's the new one.
June 21st or June?
Sorry, June 22nd.
It was the first thing in my.
This one right here.
Plan for safe return of in-person instruction and continuity.
Okay, Okay, so this needs an action?
Yes. It needs to be approved. And there is a deadline on the approval, and the approval is required to receive $1.2 million in ESSER 3 funding. So I think we should probably pass it.
Yeah, so.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this plan?
I motion to approve the Timberlake Plan for safe return to in-person instruction and continuity services for 1 Point Howard Miller.
Second.
Steve seconds. Any discussion, Kelly?
Yes, I have a question, maybe from Mark. So this was released publicly, right? I can speak to something on this.
This is a public document, yes.
So it mentions the fall of 2021 and being required to take into account a number of things, including the universal and correct wearing of masks. So I'm just wondering, if we approve this now, does that mean we can't revisit masks for the fall?
It appears to me that it's saying that you'll go by CDC guidance if this is approved. That's the way I read that.
No, mine isn't that.
Wouldn't it go by our own policy that we've passed? Right, I mean, wouldn't this?
If you look at the middle of the first page, if the school district has developed a previous plan for a safe reopening of schools that meets the requirements described above,
Right.
before the date of the reenactment, that plan will be deemed to meet the requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would just be by the policy that we passed.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a little confusing, but.
It doesn't require that we pass anything, it just says we have to take into account.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
The active policy that's in place, I would assume.
So we still have
I
a
get
little
it.
control.
I didn't read that part, so. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 5, 6 in favor. Opposed? Abstaining? 2 abstaining. 602. I do have another action item here, and I want to do it before I forget it. It's sitting here, it needs to be signed. I'm looking for board authorization to sign the Health Trust application and membership agreement. Health Trust is our pooled risk management program that operates pursuant to RSA 5B and offers its members the opportunity to participate in its coverage in related services such as group medical, dental, short-term disability, long-term disability, and life coverages. So this is an annual authorization, so I'm looking to, for the board to approve me to sign this. If you want to go through and read it, you can. I can pass it down.
And this applies to the admin unit?
No, this applies to the whole. Health Trust is our, Dana, do you want to explain a little bit more on Health Trust? I don't need to explain.
Health Trust is a pool where many school districts pool together and we get a better rate on our health insurance. It's annual and it's also for our new SAU 106 Timberlake. And so it's the agreement.
And SAU 55 was part of this previously?
Yes.
Yes.
For a long time.
And we're satisfied with their
In fact, typically, it would include every district in the entire state except for the 2 that are big enough to self-insure, and that's Manchester and Nashville. Everybody else typically year in, year out is with Health Trust.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sean makes a motion, Kristen seconds, to authorize the board to sign the application and membership agreement for SAU 106 for Health Trust. All in favor? 8-0. Can you guys down the line? Do we have a first read on policies also here? Steve,
Yes.
do you want to take that on these policies?
Sure. Motion to pass the first read on the following policies. CF School Building Administration, CFA Individual School Administrative Personnel, CFA-R Duties of the Principal, CFB, evaluation of building principles, CH, policy implementation, CHCA, approval of handbook and directives, CLA, treatment of outside reports, and CM, school district annual report.
Is there a motion to accept those policies for first reading?
So moved.
Barbara makes a motion. Is there a second? Sean seconds. All in favor? 8-0. Next item on the agenda is superintendent goals. Those should be in your packet as of today. They were revised. Sorry, I still haven't found them. I don't have them here.
There's a little bit of red at the top.
Oh, I'm sure it's on there. In the old one? No, but there should be revised. That's the old one. That's the one that was in your packet. Oh, okay, no, I think that you're right. You're right, that's the new one. Here it is. I found it. Okay. Thank you. Just got too many packets. All right, so board members, these are the superintendent's proposed goals. I know, Barbara, you had some additions. Are they reflected in here or not?
I don't see the one on communication.
Okay, so what is your suggestion on communication?
I'd like to see an addition of communication with 3 items, in particular cadence, so weekly or monthly, just some regular cadence, so that not every communication is urgent or bad news. So you have a chance to have good news things. The second is accountability. All communications from the superintendent's office are signed by an individual with contact info. And the third is connection with students, such as offering student spotlights or congratulations on recent competitions, just showing a bit more connection there.
Can you repeat the communication one?
All right, so I'm looking for, a goal is improved communication, specifically the cadence, how often the communications are sent out, accountability, so that each communication is signed by an individual, not the office, and connection with students, so have some good news bit about a student or a competition or what have you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure, Steve, go ahead.
Should somewhere in here be the creation of assistant superintendent goals, seeing that that's a new position?
Number 3, I think, under organizational. What's the audit?
Yeah, specific to special education.
Especially as the organizational chart that we just approved, that superintendent is the only one that this board actually oversees. So these are our goals for the superintendent. We do the same thing for the assistant superintendent, and what level did we go down that we stop at?
No, I guess.
No, I don't think that's what Steve's
No,
saying.
I'm saying a goal would be here for the superintendent to develop the goals for the assistant.
Yeah, I think that's under number 2, which is the job descriptions and procedures.
Perhaps one also, but
Okay.
could add qualifying.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, if we're comfortable with it, that's fine. But
I think number 3 will be it's already very loaded already. With the special education audit.
Yeah, it's a big goal.
I think development of job descriptions versus development of goals are different. So I'd like to see something in there specifically for development of assistant superintendent goals.
So why not just add that to number 2? I mean, if
Okay.
you can put the explanation right in there, I think
Sure.
it belongs.
Yeah, okay.
Just or to work with the assistant superintendent to determine reasonable goals for the coming school year.
Sure.
Is that going under 2, or is that separate?
I think it could go as part of 2. but-
Okay, so work with assistant superintendent to develop goals for the school year.
Thank you.
Okay.
So are you looking for a motion to approve these?
Yes. I guess they would be, yes, approved with the changes that we just discussed. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, is there any input, Dr. Cochran, by you based on Barbara's?
We just added 4 new goals for you.
Is there any input from you based on what Barbara mentioned with her communication and the goals? I mean, you're acceptable?
No, those looked reasonable to me. Actually, it's pretty similar to some of the stuff I've been working on.
Okay.
Okay.
And in fact, we have discussed more communication and reached out. We received a quote from communications consultant to help us develop new logos, things like that, but also strategies exactly for that across the schools. Typically, when you implement a communication strategy like this, you get a sort of a burst, and a lot of things get sent out and they die over time. But Mr. Henderson actually did the groundwork in putting us in touch, and so that's one of the things we've actually been discussing for probably 6 weeks.
Okay.
I move to approve the superintendent's goals with the changes we discussed this evening. Do I have to list them all?
Okay.
I second.
Kelly makes a motion, Steve seconds. All in favor? 8-0. Okay, moving on. School board meeting location, actually, I don't recall why this is on the agenda. Dr. Cochran, was there
I believe there was a request to add it.
Probably assume that are we going to continue meeting here, or are we actually going to go back to our?
I don't know.
I believe that was the topic of suggested discussion.
When are we meeting?
Our next meeting is July 15th. I think that's going to be based on what the guidance is for what Mr. Pedersen offers for guidance in terms of meeting spaces. Whatever the guidance is at that time.
Do you, Mark? No.
I think if he has to do one more set of calculations to put in a formula, his head's going to explode. But I think he's well equipped to be able to extrapolate from our other systems to put a model together.
You just simply say we meet here on July 15th.
I say we just continue to meet here. We meet here on July 15th.
And then on July 15th, we figure out
The next one.
We go from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think we need an action on it. We don't need a vote on it. We'll plan here on July 15th.
I will be late to that meeting, just to let you know.
Okay.
I just don't want you to do that.
We need to ratify the June 17th personnel report. I guess, Dr. Cochran, I'll let you do that when we move on. So we're moving on to the administrator's report.
We do have, sorry. We do have the anticipated enrollment numbers report that we were not able to do in public session on the 17th. Do people have that in there?
Yes, we have that in our packet from last time, but it wasn't an action item. I think it was, this is required.
Just indicating that at current, Director Canotis, did you want to speak to the the anticipated enrollment report that was included in the 17th agenda?
Only if there are questions. We have two needs at this time, but we have a way to fill those needs. So it's really just to let you know the potential future pressure points that we're going to monitor this summer.
Okay. Any questions on that?
So right now, we're not looking for any actions?
Not on the anticipated enrollment, no. Usually what happens is we get to this time of year, and Ms. Canonas can speak to this, sometimes we're sitting at a point where the board may have to waive policy, or they then, if you get a few more students, they may have to split a class, which then means they're going to have to hire. So this is an annual report to the board in June that states what they're looking at and where there may be pressure points where we may need to do additional hiring. We're getting a little feedback back here. Any questions on that? Barbara?
So we anticipate that we might need to do some catch-up for some of the students from last year. Is that going to change any of the staffing requirements?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if at this point we should go into a non-public session to discuss more, or did you have?
The only thing that was listed in the administrator's report was a non-public session and the health trust membership agreement, which we've already done.
All right. We do have some, and actually, 1 second. We do have the nominations from last time that I need to publicly state. Sorry, the reason I appear a little disorganized because we have 2 agenda packets. Sure, go ahead. Why don't
Are there any committee reports? While Kim's looking for that, do we have any committee reports or reports from anyone? Barbara?
Just on the Energy Committee, we are looking for the age of the roofs on all the schools and optimally the load, the structural load that they can take. I'm not sure who's tasked with that and when we might see that.
Is it a question or just a comment?
It's a question. I don't know.
Have you asked, has the Energy Committee asked for that to be done of somebody, or?
I believe Mark Forger has requested it, but I don't know if it's been received. And
okay. So it's something we need to follow up on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Carpenter, have you gotten that?
Which
Has Mark reached out to you on that, about the roof loads?
So the age
no.
of the roofs?
Okay.
No, but I know he's working on it.
Okay, so that's something that you're aware of, so we'll hopefully have those answers for the next.
I believe he's asked for it from the school. I don't think he's personally working on it.
No, but he's mentioned it to Dr. Cobb,
Okay.
so that's why, so
Yeah.
it is something that's in the works, so.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'm just going to take 2 seconds just to say that prior to our last meeting, I had the opportunity to attend 2 graduations, the high school graduation and the middle school graduation. I did not attend any of the elementaries, but I just wanted to congratulate all of the students, the class of 2021 for leaving the high school, the class of 2025 for moving up to the high school, all the students in between that and below that finished out grade school years and moved forward. Both ceremonies were outstanding. The weather was great, which was wonderful. The kids were all well behaved, the faculty was awesome, the speeches were incredible, and the students blew away some of the faculty speeches. It was amazing. There was a middle school speaker that just had us all astonished. I think we have a lot of great talent in the school and a lot to be proud of. We graduated a lot of great talent. I'm looking forward to seeing where everything goes, but kudos to everyone that organized those graduations, everyone that participated, and again, congratulations to all the students, and I hope everyone enjoys their summer, and we look forward to having them all back. But for the class of 2021, good luck in all of your future endeavors and wherever you end up, and we look forward to hearing from all of you, to knowing what those successes are.
If I can add on, starting last July, I think 27th, in the middle of COVID and trying to work on plans. It's been a busy year and very unusual in a sense, especially for an incoming superintendent, where the usual advice for an incoming superintendent is, meet people, spend time getting to know folks, don't make any decisions for 6 months into your school year, and that really wasn't an option for this year. But I have to tell you what a treat it was to see late in the school year. I got chances to be in especially the middle school and high school more, and see the relationship between the students and the teachers, the role of administration, and got to talk to parents more, especially in those two buildings, and just to see the level of knowledge between teachers and students. I went to every event in the last 2 weeks of school that I could, and really got to see that level of connect and the commitment of the teachers to the students, and the student and families' appreciation of the work that the teachers and the paraeducators and administrators do. And it was tremendously gratifying to me to be able to be out of the tent, socially distanced and maskless, in a situation where we're celebrating our teachers and celebrating our students and celebrating our employees. And I have to say, it was a highlight of a very long and difficult and very busy year, but to see that makes all the work worthwhile. And it was a wonderful, wonderful finish to the end of the school year. And I thank folks for that and all of their hard work during this year. In a lot of ways, we went through this with very few ripples. There were schools who really had a lot of issues in a lot of ways, and I look back on this year and the way that people pulled together and gave of themselves. And I mentioned this at the middle school. The number of evenings that Mr. Peterson and Sandy Allaire and I were on text messages about how many teachers were sick and who was having to quarantine, and every day, day after day, it's a matter of, well, maybe we can get paraeducators to cover this class, maybe we can get a teacher to give up their duty and do this over here. And as the text messages go back and forth through the night, and you go, we don't think there's any way we can do it, and half an hour later, it's these people stepped up and now we can this. And a little later, it's these people stepped up and now we think we can open and make it work. And it was just gratifying to see people step in and do that on a day after day after day basis across the building. And my only regret is that I told both the middle school and high school that if they needed a math or science teacher to fill in, they should call me early and I will be there. And nobody ever called for some reason. But all joking aside, I do want to thank all the people, including SLT, Sandy, Mark, Lucy, Ken, who put in the same sort of heroic hours at all days of the week and on weekends, and especially the way that custodians kept us going, kept us feeling good about where we were in terms of safety. First service people kept being there every day and just making things seem as normal as they could have been in COVID. So it was a huge team effort. And I think when we reflect back on this in a couple of years and see what we actually achieved here, we'll really realize how well we adjusted to a new normal and tried to make things work as best we could given the challenges. And I think, the schools were very successful in that. I'm just thrilled to be part of it.
I'm going to jump on that and add to that too. If there is a benefit, one of the benefits with all of this was we tried new things, but we also were able to video everything. And I have to give a shout out to Dean, Mr. Rugoletti. I know their names I'm missing, but those are the two faces that I saw at every event. And again, all the awards nights. Tim Brown came up with the idea of doing it under a tent, and because we weren't sure if we were going to get to do it anywhere and wanted to make sure they happened. We had the tent. Everyone was a little, they were amazing. The awards nights were all amazing. The prom was amazing under a tent. I mean, we adjusted, we did things, but the benefit is all of these things in these awards nights and the graduations and the prom, they're all memorialized. Dean had the drone flying, they had everything going on, and these can all be watched. I mean, all these events, and it was great for, relatives that couldn't get here, relatives that don't even live in the area, to just get that benefit. And I think we learned a lot from that. I think it was great in that aspect, and I'm assuming it's something that will continue. I think a lot of families appreciated it, but again, take the time and go on and watch the graduation and hear these kids talk. Hear what they have to say about our school. I mean, there's so much discord that had happened this year, but when you hear these kids and how proud they were of what they accomplished here and what their years were, as the adults in this, we have to stand and applaud them that they did that and to take the time to do it. I understand everyone was upset, we had sides over here, sides over there, sides in the middle, but you know what? These kids were the glue, and they pulled it all together, and they were amazing, and they had incredible things to say about their year. Whether they were in middle school or they were in high school, and just the way, as you stated, they bonded, and it's just, again, it was overwhelming. So if you have doubts about Timberlane, please take the time, watch the awards nights, watch the graduation, watch all the incredible things, the sporting events. And I'm going to give this my last shout out. The boys volleyball team made it as far as the semifinals, and kudos to them. The boys lacrosse team made it into the finals, which is the furthest that they've ever taken that program. And they lost 6-9 against a very tough Portsmouth team. But again, kudos to all of these kids for never giving up and doing as much as they could at all levels. So again, my hat's off to all the students of Timberlane and all of the staff that supported them.
Steve?
Yeah.
And parents too.
I was just actually thinking, I was actually just going to say that, we've thanked, the kids and the staff and the students, but none of this would have been possible without the parents and guardians out there and the tremendous challenges that were faced over the last year. I often try to think of what it would be like to be in high school over this last year, and not seeing your friends and being remote and trying to figure out computers and all of those things. I think it's quite obvious that most kids are much more tech savvy than myself, at least. But to the parents out there, to the guardians, to the people who put time in to have this be a successful year, thank you for all of your hard work. Thank you for rearranging your schedules. Thank you for working from home so that your kids can log on. Thank you for all of the hard work that you did to make this year successful as well.
Thank you. I also would like to, I think we mentioned almost everybody, but I do think that we have not mentioned the bus drivers that have been driving those buses, and I still see them wearing their masks. Again, people that stepped up to, I know we pay people, but substitute teachers, pandemic floaters, the administrative assistants that I know went into classrooms sometimes just to help keep things moving, and of course facilities and the food service workers. So TTA, TSSU, also thanks to you. As an educator myself, I know it has been an extremely difficult year for people, Zoom or not Zooming. So thank you. So before we go into, I think we need to move into a non-public session for personnel. I do want to officially welcome Mr. Kellen, who will be our new assistant superintendent. I don't think I did that. Thank you, welcome. So he officially begins July 1st, but he's been gracious enough to meet with us. This will be our last meeting under SAU 55. I know people have been working diligently in the SAU 55 office that we will now be transitioning to SAU 106. Mr. Henderson has done a great job of converting everything. I know our business office is ready to make the transfer over. You can see that HR is moving over things like Health Trust. So hopefully that will be a seamless transition. As far as the agreement between Hampstead and Timberlane, we are still working on that. I have been in conference with the lawyer this week about it. I'll update the board on that in a non-public session. You won't see any difference. Timberlane owns the SAU building, so Hampstead, all those records and everything will be moving back over to Hampstead, and we will officially withdraw. The only thing that Hampstead will be taking is the fingerprint machine. per the withdrawal agreement, and we have already purchased a new fingerprint machine, right? I think I saw that, thank you, Maria. So we are all set for the transition as best we can be. And we are pretty close to being fully staffed. Board members, in your packet, you have an update of the hire date and who's currently in SAU as we move to 106. Okay, so I do need to go back. We need to publicly we have made these nominations last week, but they weren't announced in public session. So I'm just going to run down some of these nominations. So last week, we had professional nominations for Megan Melandy, middle school math enrichment teacher, Angela Kinson, math teacher in the Timberlane Middle School, Isabel Carter, English teacher in the high school, Joanne Hammer, special ed in Pollard, Suzanne Thibault, elementary art teacher in Pollard, McKenna Reese, occupational therapist for the district, Shelby Hall will be STEAM in the Timberlane Middle School, and Lauren Bellevue will be ELA in the Timberlane Middle School. We welcome those new staff members. In terms of administrative nominations, the board approved Patrice Liff to be the principal at the Early Learning Center in Sandown Central. For renominations, we renominated Jennifer Polchak. I'm sorry.
I always butcher your name.
Polchak.
Polchak, okay. As the curriculum coordinator, Jen Mitchinson, assistant principal at the high school, Tim Gauncey, assistant principal in the middle school, and Lori Bailey, science teacher in the high school. We do have more nominations for this evening. I would like to do some of these nominations in public, but then I would like to move to a non-public for some of these. So I'd like the board's approval on the nomination of Stephanie Reese as a half-time pre-K teacher in Atkinson Academy and Judith Winters as a school counselor in the high school.
So moved.
Barbara makes that motion. Is there a second? Sean seconds. All in favor? 8-0. Moving on to resignations, we have 2 resignations. Dana Giampaolo, Timberlane Middle School Spanish, and Scott Desmond, Timberlane Middle School SPED, Special Education.
And we have a correction.
Okay.
Nancy Hefferton's retirement information was inaccurate, and Lucy will correct me if I'm incorrect, but she worked as an SLP for 33 years at Atkinson and Danville, which I think is not what was announced, and Nancy asked if I would make the correction this evening, so people realize that she recalls that she was the one who worked for 33 years at those 2 schools and enjoyed it very much. I had a wonderful conversation with her last week, and we wish her well in her retirement.
Thank you, and I did, there were resignations I missed on this. I didn't realize it went into 2 pages, so let's go back to those professional nominations. So professional nominations, we're still looking to, Barbara made the motion for Stephanie Reese and Judith Winters. Was there a second on that motion?
Yeah.
Sean seconds. All in favor of those 2 professional nominations? 8-0. Okay. Moving on to resignations. Last week we accepted the resignation of Paula Marini, David Nimzak, thank you. I'm going to have to get a pronunciation lesson before it next time. Larissa Smith, and I'm sorry, she's a math teacher. David Nimzak is life science teacher at the high school. Paula Marini, intensive needs teacher at the high school. And also Zach Champion is a school counselor. We accepted those resignations at the last meeting. Moving on to resignations here. We just did these, so I think we're all set. We have one administrative nomination that I'd like to put forward to the board for Michael Feely for custodial and facilities supervisor for the district.
So moved. Or I make a motion to accept the nomination of Michael Feely.
Okay, Kelly makes that motion, Steve seconds. All in favor? 8-0. I'd like to hold on the other one, I just want to have a brief discussion in non-public before we move that forward. Is there anything else for the public session before we move into a non-public session?
Did you do the resignations on that page?
I thought Didn't,
Yeah, we did.
we did those. Didn't we do those?
Yeah, because you couldn't take them.
Previously?
Yes.
Barbara, did we do the 2 resignations for Dana?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we did those, Sean. All right. Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to enter into non-public session under 91A:3, paragraph 2, A and C.
So moved.
Steve makes a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Kristen seconds. Normally we do a roll call vote, so Sean,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Kim, yes, Steve,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
Thank you. I would anticipate we will come back into a public session with some more nominations. So we will come back into public session. It may be a while. though. It's going to be a while. A long while. Okay, thank you. Set, so just coming back in and,
I'll make a motion to seal the non-public minutes.
thank you, Sean.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 0. We did.
That was Sean and.
We lost 2 people, yes. Yeah, we're down to 6. We lost Steve, I believe, and Brian. Yeah, all right. So I would like to formally nominate Dan Woodworth for Assistant Principal at Timberlane Regional Middle School.
So made.
Sean makes a motion. We already did this. Yes, we're announcing this, sorry. So we're announcing that Dan is been nominated for Assistant Principal in the middle school. So congratulations, Dan. And I think that concludes our meeting. Thank you, everybody. Sorry to keep you here so late.